But lately I've been feeling a little bit lonely in terms of like, I feel like if you're out in the sunlight, for me, I love being alone. I'm an introvert. Being alone and feeling lonely is two completely different things. And I don't talk to my friends about how I feel most of the time. Honestly, you guys know how I feel more than they do. Hello YouTube, welcome back to another video. Today's video is going to be about feeling lonely and being alone. For last week I wanted to make this video, but then I didn't want to make this video. Feeling lonely is something that we all go through. According to Google, the difference between lonely and alone is lonely is a feeling, you feel lonely, whereas alone is a condition, like you're physically alone. And I'm sure we all felt lonely before. In my opinion, I think feeling lonely is not a good thing, but being alone is, if you know what I mean. Just because you're alone doesn't mean that you're lonely, and just because you're in a crowd doesn't mean that you're not lonely, if you know what I'm saying. For me, I love being alone. I'm an introvert. I like to do things by myself. I go to the movie theaters by myself. I go out to eat by myself. I watch, Netflix by myself. I do a bunch of things by myself, and I'm okay with that. But lately, I've been feeling a little bit lonely in terms of like, I have no one to support me, or like no one to believe in me, or like no one to have my back, and I'm in this alone, and that's why I felt lonely. But then I got over it because I remembered I'm just kidding, but I did get over it. But let me say that, like, being in a lonely state of mind, being in a lonely emotion sucked. It really felt like everything that I did wasn't good enough. I don't know what it was. I don't know why I was in that state of mind, but whenever I would think of an idea or do something, it just felt like it didn't matter. Like it wasn't good enough. And I felt very lonely because nobody was there to be like, oh, like, don't worry about it, keep going. I could only do that for myself. And I made it worse by being on social media. I see everyone else having fun. I see everyone else going out and hanging out with their friends and laughing and smiling. And that made me feel worse, but I don't mind being alone. Do you ever get that feeling where like you're in a crowd of people, but you still feel like you're on the outside? For me, even if I'm in the crowd or with my friends, I still feel like I'm alone, or I still feel lonely. Being alone and feeling lonely is two completely different things. But the difference is, being lonely, you're not okay with. Being alone, you can be okay with. I think being alone is one of the best things that you can do for yourself. One, because when you're alone and you're okay with being alone, and you finally realize you're all you need in life, you don't need anybody else's validation, you alone is good enough, that's when you become the most powerful and like the best version of you. For example, if you can go out and eat by yourself, or if you can go out and enjoy a movie by yourself, it'll just make that experience better when you have somebody else with you. Now the problem is, when you're alone for a long period of time, you become antisocial, and then you get that RBF, the resting face, and then no one wants to approach you. But at that point, you don't even care anymore because you're okay with being alone. Now if you're feeling lonely, this is the hard part, because I can understand where you're coming from. Let me give you some tips and my experience on how I got over being lonely. The way I dealt with feeling lonely is the same way I deal with any other stressful or negative type of emotions or thoughts. I basically just replace it with something else. What you shouldn't do when you're feeling lonely is turn to substance abuse, or drinking, binge eating, or binge watching shows. I don't think those things are healthy at all. Let me tell you, because all those things are fleeting. They can only last you for so long. So what I found is, when I'm watching a show, anime, K-drama, it feels really, really good because my time and my mental real estate is focused on the action, the storyline, the characters. And I'm so invested. I'm like, oh my God, this is great. I'm not thinking about being lonely anymore. Then when the last episode finishes, now you're bored and you're looking for something else to watch, but you can't because there's nothing else left, and you're feeling super lonely, and then you're stressed out again, and it's worse because you're sad now because you have nothing else to fill that void. So what I'm saying is, don't chase fleeting moments, right? When you're lonely, do not chase something that's like small and that's like quick and easy. Don't chase those things. You need to spend your time doing something of substance. You need to spend your time doing something that can better yourself. Use that emotion, use that time to become a better version of yourself. In the long run, you're gonna like yourself better, and you're gonna thank yourself. If you're anything like me, even when you're doing certain things, like if you're doing chores, or if you're reading, if you're working out, your mind will still wander off and go back to those negative thoughts about, feeling lonely, all these negative thoughts about you're not good enough and stuff. You have to be able to concentrate and focus your mind on exactly what you're doing. You have to be present, so that way your mind doesn't wander off. I know this because when I'm reading a book, I could read the words, but I'm not understanding it. My mind is thinking of something else, but I'm reading the words. And then after I'm done reading the paragraph, I'm like, what did I just read? I have to reread everything because my mind was thinking about something else. And I realized that, so I have to fix it. Sometimes I like to listen to some music, go for a walk, or go for a jog. I feel like when I go out for a walk, or when I'm in the sun, or when I'm in nature, I feel a lot more positive. The colors of like the trees, the leaves, the grass, you know, the pavements, everything just pops more. Now what you shouldn't do is you shouldn't go out for a walk when it's like gloomy and there's a thunderstorm out, or if it's raining out. I don't think that's good for your mental health and like your mood. Unless you're into like rainstorms or like thunderstorms, then yeah, go for it. But for me, like if it's dark and gloomy out, I'm not gonna go out when I'm like feeling lonely, because it's just gonna make me feel more lonely. The one main thing about being lonely is you have to figure out your time. How do you fill up all those times so that you really don't have a long period of time where you're not doing anything? You shouldn't binge watch a show. Maybe watch 1 or 2 episodes a day and then like put that time slot in, and then the next day watch 1 or 2 episodes again. You shouldn't spend the whole day binge watching something and the next day you have nothing else to do. You should split it up so like each single day you have something to look forward to. Wow, I think I just figured out, you know, the whole thing about being lonely is really just to have something to look forward to. I think when you're lonely, at least for me, is there's nothing to look forward to. You're only thinking about like what you don't have or what you lack. I also don't think that, you know, being next to somebody or being in a crowd is a good way to fight loneliness either. I don't think you should try to get with somebody if you're feeling lonely, because when you're feeling lonely, you start to do dumb things, you know, like you make bad judgment just because you're lonely and you get into a relationship or something and then you figure out that's not what you wanted. Another thing I like to do when I'm feeling lonely is think of the scariest time in your life. You know, it could be like a near-death experience or like something in your life that could have gone horribly wrong. I don't know if this can work for everybody, because I can see how like if you start thinking of these things, you can think more negatively. But for me, I try to like think of it that way so I could appreciate my life now more. So like I'll think of a time where like, you know, I almost died and like how my life could have ended versus now like I'm still alive and I'm hopeful and I'm happy that I'm alive. Or the time I almost got jumped or beat up. Like those are times where like my life could have completely drastically changed, and thinking about those times helps me to like really appreciate what I have now, and it helps me get my mind off, you know, feeling lonely and not good enough. Because if you're going through all these life experiences and all these heartaches or hardships and like your life could have completely turned around 180 and gone the other way, but you're still here, that means you're strong enough to be here, and that should give you more strength in yourself and more belief in yourself. And I don't talk to my friends about how I feel most of the time. Honestly, you guys know how I feel more than they do, which is kind of weird, because, you know, you would think I would share more with my friends than with my viewers, but here I am. I think the reason why I don't share my feelings with my friends is because sometimes I'm afraid that like they'd make fun of me for my feelings of feeling alone, or like they might not understand me. So that's why I share with, you know, the hundreds of thousands and millions of people on the internet. Maybe you guys are going through the same thing that I'm going through and you can relate, and you know, maybe this video helps you out. But I guess what I'm trying to say is I understand why, like, you know, you feel like you have no one to talk to, because you feel like if you say something to your friends, if you say something to your family members, they're not gonna understand you, they're gonna make fun of you and stuff like that. So yeah, like, you know, if you feel that way, don't share with them. You don't need them, you know. I want to let you know that you yourself is good enough. You yourself is all you need. Understand that when you're fully okay with being alone, the world is yours. You don't need anybody else's validation. You'll feel great about it, trust me. I feel like this video is a little bit confusing. It's a little bit everywhere, but I hope this video does help you out. Let me know in the comments below if you ever felt lonely and how you dealt with it. And also let me know in the comments below what other video topics you want me to make. But yeah, thank you all for watching and supporting. I hope this video helps some of you out. And I just want to say it's okay to be alone. You know, if you're ever lonely, come back and watch this video or watch my other videos. But yeah, maybe I'll do some live streams too in the future. Thank you all for watching. Peace.